Good morning, and nice to be back with you. Today I'm reading from the first book of Kings of the Old Testament from the Holy Bible. I'm reading from chapter 8 onwards today. Chapter 8. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief of the fathers and of the children of Israel, unto King Solomon in Jerusalem, that they may bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is Zion. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto King Solomon at the feast in the month of Ethanim, which is the 7th month. And all the elders of Israel came, and the priests took up the ark. And they brought up the ark of the Lord and the tabernacle of the congregation, and all the holy vessels which are in the tabernacle, even those did the priests and the Levites bring up. And King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel that were assembled unto him were with him before the ark, sacrificing sheep and oxen that could not be told or numbered of multitude. And the priest brought in the ark of the covenant of the Lord unto its place, unto the oracle of the house, to the most holy place, even at the wings of the cherubims. For the cherubim spread forth their two wings over the place of the ark, and they covered the ark and the staves thereof above. And they drew out the staves, that ends of the staves were seen in the holy place before the oracle, and they were not seen without, and they are unto this day. Then there was nothing in the ark save the two tables of stones which Moses put there in Horeb, when the Lord made a covenant with the children of Israel, when they came out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass, when the priests were come out of the holy place, that the cloud filled the house of the Lord, so that the priest could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord had filled the house. And they spake, Solomon, the Lord has said that he will dwell in thick darkness. I have surely built thee a house to dwell in, a settled place for thee to abide in forever. And the king turned his face round about and blessed all the congregation of Israel. And about all the congregation of Israel stood. And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, which spake with his mouth unto David my father, and hath in his mind his hand fulfilled it, saying, Since the day I brought my people of Israel out of Egypt, I chose no city out of all the tribes of Israel to build a house, that my name might be therein. But I chose David to be over my people Israel, and it was in the heart of David my father to build a house for the name of the Lord God of Israel. And the Lord God said unto David my father, Whereas it was in thine heart to build a house unto my name, thou didst well that was in thy heart. Nevertheless thou shalt not build the house, but thy son shall come forth out of the loins, he shall build the house unto my name. And the Lord has performed his word that he spake, and I am risen up in the room of David my father, and sit on the throne of Israel as the Lord promised, and have built a house for the name of the Lord God of Israel. And I have set there a place for the ark, wherein is the covenant of the Lord, which he has made with our fathers, when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. And Solomon stood before the altar of the Lord in the presence of all the congregation of Israel, and spread forth his hands toward heaven. And he said, Lord God of Israel, there is no God like thee, in heaven above or on earth beneath, who keepest covenant and mercy with thy servants that walk before thee with all their heart, who has kept thy servant David, my father, that thou hast promised him. Thou spakest also with thy mouth, and hast fulfilled it with thine hand, as it is to this day. Therefore now, Lord God of Israel, keep with thy servant David, my father, that thou hast promised him, saying, Therefore shall not fail thee any man in thy sight to sit on the throne of Israel, so that thy children take heed to the way, that they walk before me as they have walked before me. And now, O Lord God of Israel, let thy word, I pray thee, be verified, which thou spakest unto thy servant David, my father. But will God indeed dwell on earth? Behold, heaven and earth, and heaven of heavens cannot contain thee. How much less this house that I have builded? Yet have thou respect unto the prayer of thy servant, and to his supplication. O Lord my God, hearken unto the cry and to the prayer which thy servant prayeth before thee today, that thine eyes may be open toward this house day and night, even toward the place of which thou hast said, My name shall be there, that thou mayest hearken unto the prayer which thy servant shall make toward this place, and hearken thou to the supplication of thy servant and to the people of Israel, when they shall pray toward this place. And hear thou in heaven the dwelling place, and when thou hearest, forgive. And if any man trespass against his neighbor, and an oath to be laid upon him, to cause him to swear, and the oath come before the altar in thy house, then hear thou in heaven, and do and judge thy servants, condemning the wicked, to bring his way upon his head, justifying the righteous, to give according to his righteousness, when thy people be smitten down before the enemy, because they have sinned against thee, and shall turn to the Lord, and confess thy name, and pray, and make supplication unto thee in this house. Then hear thou in heaven, and forgive the sin of thy people Israel, and bring thou again unto the Lord which thou gavest unto thy fathers, when heaven is shut up, and there is no rain, because they have sinned against thee, if they pray toward this place, and confess thy name, and turn from their sin, when they have afflicted them. Then hear thou in heaven, and forgive the sin of thy servants, and of thy people Israel, that thou teach them the good way wherein they should walk, and give rain upon thy land, which thou hast given to thy people for an inheritance. If there be in the land famine, if there be pestilence, blasting, mildew, locust, or if there be caterpillar, if their enemy besiege them in the land of their cities, whatsoever plague, whatsoever sickness there be, what prayer and supplication soever be made by any man, or by all the people Israel, which shall know that even every man the plague of his own heart, and spread forth his hand toward this house, then hear thou in heaven thy dwelling place, forgive and do, and give to every man according to his ways, and whose heart thou knowest, for thou, even thou only, knowest the heart of all the children of men, that they may fear thee all the days that they live in the land which thou givest unto our fathers. Moreover, concerning a stranger that is not of thy people Israel, but cometh out of a far country for thy name's sake, for they shall hear of thy great name, thy strong hand, and of thy stretched out arm, when he shall come and pray toward this house. Hear thou in heaven thy dwelling place, do according to all that the children call it to thee for that all the people of the earth may know thy name, to fear thee, as do thy people Israel, and that they may know that this house which I have builded is called by thy name. If thy people go out to battle against their enemy, whithersoever thou shalt send them, and shall pray unto the Lord, toward the city which thou hast chosen, and toward the house that I have built for thy name, then hear thou in heaven their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause, if they sin against thee, for there is no man that sinneth not, and thou be angry with them, and deliver them to the enemy, so that they carry them away captives unto the land of the enemy, far or near. And if they shall bethink themselves in the land whither they are carried captives, and repeat, and make supplication unto thee in the land of them that carried them captives, saying, We have sinned and have done perversely, we have committed wickedness, and so return unto thee with all their heart and with all their soul, in the land of their enemies, which led them away captive, and pray unto thee toward their land which thou gavest unto their fathers, and the land according to thou chosen, and the house which I have built for thy name. Then hear thou their prayer and their supplication in heaven, thy dwelling place, and maintain their cause. Forgive thy people that have sinned against thee, and all their transgression wherein they have transgressed against thee, and give them compassion between them who carried them captive, that they may have compassion on them. For they be thy people, thine inheritance, which thou broughtest forth out of Egypt from the midst of the furnace of iron, that thine eyes may be opened unto the supplication of thy servant, and unto the supplication of thy people Israel, to hearken unto them in all that they call for unto thee. For thou didst separate them from among all the people of the earth, to be thine inheritance, as thou speakest by the hand of Moses thy servant, when thou broughtest out our fathers out of Egypt, O Lord our God. And it was so that when Solomon had made an end of all praying, all this prayer and supplication unto the Lord, he arose from before the altar of the Lord, from kneeling on his knees with his hands spread up to heaven. And he stood still and blessed all the congregation of Israel with a loud voice, saying, Blessed be the Lord, which has given rest unto his people Israel, according to all that he promised. There has not failed one word of his good promise, which he promised by the hand of Moses his servants. The Lord our God be with us, as he was with our fathers. Let him not leave us, nor forsake us, that he may incline our hearts unto him, to walk in all his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes, and his judgments, which he commanded our fathers. And let these be my words, wherewith I have made supplication before the Lord, be nigh unto the Lord our God day and night, that he maintain the cause of his servant, and the cause of the people Israel at all times, as the matter shall require, that all the people of the earth may know that the Lord is God, and there is none else. Let your heart therefore be perfect with the Lord our God, to walk in his statutes and keep his commandments, as at this day. The Lord and the king and all Israel with him offered sacrifice before the Lord. And Solomon offered a sacrifice of peace offerings, which he offered unto the Lord, 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the children of Israel dedicated the house of the Lord. The same day did the king hallow the middle of the court that was before the house of the Lord, for there he offered burnt offerings and meat offerings and fat of peace offerings before the brazen altar that was before the Lord. The stool is little to receive the burnt offerings and the meat offerings and the fat of the peace offerings. And at that time Solomon held a feast, and all Israel was with him, a great congregation, from the entering in of Hamath unto the river of Egypt, before the Lord our God, 7 days and 7 days and 7 days, even 14 days. On the 8th day he sent the people away. They blessed the king and went into the tents joyful and glad of heart for all the goodness that the Lord had done for David and his servant, and for Israel his people. Chapter 9. And it came to pass, when Solomon had finished the building of the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all Solomon's desire when he pleased to do, that the Lord appeared unto Solomon the second time, as he had appeared unto him at Gibeon. And the Lord said unto him, I have heard thy prayer and the supplication that thou hast made before me. I have hallowed this house which thou hast built, to put my name therefore ever, and mine eyes and mine heart shall be there perpetually. And if thou wilt walk before me, as David thy father walked in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded thee, and will keep my statutes and my judgments, then I will establish the throne of thy kingdom upon Israel forever. There shall, as I promised to David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man upon the throne of Israel. But if ye shall at all turn from following me, ye and your children, and will not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have hallowed for my name, and I will cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people. And at this house which is high, every one that passeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss, and they shall say, Why has the Lord done this unto this land and to this house? And they shall answer, Because they forsook the Lord their God, who has brought forth their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and have taken hold upon other gods, have worshipped them and served them, and therefore has the Lord brought them upon their head all this evil. And it shall come to pass at the end of 20 years, when Solomon has built 2 houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house. Now Hiram the king of Tyre had furnished Solomon with cedar trees and fir trees, and with gold according to all his desire. And then the king Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. And Hiram came out from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, and they pleased him not. And he said, What cities are these which thou hast given me, my brother? And he called the land of Kabul unto this day. And Hiram went to the king 6 talents of gold. And this is the reason of the levy which King Solomon raised, for to build the house of the Lord, his own house, and Millo, and the wall of Jerusalem, and Hazor, and Megiddo, and Gezer, For Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and taken Gezer, burned it with fire, slain the Canaanites that dwell in the city, and given it for a present unto his daughter Solomon's wife. And Solomon built Gezer and Bethlehem the nether, and Baalath and Tadmor in the wilderness in the land, and all the cities of store that Solomon had, and the cities for his chariots, and the cities for his horsemen, and that which Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, and in Lebanon, in all the land of his dominion. And all the people that were left of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which were not of the children of Israel, their children that were left after them in their land, whom the children of Israel also were not able to utterly destroy, upon those did Solomon levy a tribute of bond service unto this day. But of the children of Israel did Solomon make no bondmen, but his princes and his captains and his rulers of the chariots and his horsemen. These were the chief of the officers that were over Solomon's work, 550, which bare rule over the people that wrought in the work. But Pharaoh's daughter came up out of the city of David unto her house, which Solomon had built for her. Then did he build Millo. And 3 times in a year did Solomon offer burnt offerings and peace offerings upon the altar which he built unto the Lord. And he burned incense upon the altar that was before the Lord. So he finished the house. And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion Gibor, which is beside Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent in the navy by his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir, fetched them gold, 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon. Chapter 10. And when the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to prove him with hard questions. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great train, and camels and bare spices, and much gold, and precious stones. And when she came to Solomon, she communed with him all that was in her heart. And Solomon told her all her questions, that anything hid from the king, which he told her not. And when the Queen of Sheba had seen all Solomon's wisdom, and the house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, and his cupbearers, and his ascent by which he went to the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. And she said to the king, It was a true report that I heard in mine own land of thine acts and of thy wisdom. Howbeit, I believed not the words until I came, and my eyes have seen it. And behold, half was not told me. Thy wisdom, thy prosperity exceeded the fame which I heard. Happy are thy men, happy are thy servants, which stand continually before thee, and hear thy wisdom. Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighted in thee to set thee on the throne of Israel, because the Lord loved Israel forever. Therefore has he made king to do judgment and justice. And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, spices of very great store, precious stones that came of such abundance of spices as these were Queen of Sheba gave to Solomon. And the navy also of Hiram that brought gold from Ophir brought in Ophir great plenty of almug trees and precious stones. And the king made of the almug trees pillars for the house of the Lord, and for the king's house harps, also psalteries for singers. And there came no such almug trees, nor were seen unto this day. And the king Solomon gave unto the Queen of Sheba all her desire, whatever she asked, beside that which Solomon gave her of his royal bounty. So she returned and went to her country, she and her servants. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. Beside that he had of the merchantmen, and of the traffic of the spice merchants, and of the king of Arabia, and the governors of the country. And the king Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold, 600 shekels of gold went to one target. And he made 300 shekels of gold, shields of beaten gold, 3 pounds of gold went to the shield. And the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory, overlaid it with best gold. The throne had 6 steps, and the top of the throne was round about, and there were stays on either side on the place of the seat, and 2 lions stood beside the stays, and 12 lions stood there on one side and the other upon the 6 steps. There was not like made any in the kingdom. And And all the king's Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver. It was nothing accounted of in the days of Solomon. For the king had a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of earth for riches and for wisdom. And all the earth sought to Solomon to hear his wisdom which God put in his heart. And they brought every man his present, vessels of silver, vessels of gold, garments, armor, spices, horses, mules, rate year by year. And Solomon gathered together chariots and horsemen, and he had 1,400 chariots, 12,000 hundred men, horsemen, whom he bestowed in the cities of chariots, and the king at Jerusalem. And the king made silver to be made in Jerusalem as stones, and cedars made he to be as sycamore trees that are in the vale for abundance. And Solomon had horses brought out of Egypt and linen yarn, and king's merchants received the linen yarn at a price. And a chariot came up and went out of Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150. And so for all the kings of the Hittites and for the kings of Syria did they bring out by their means.